Well folks, I think it's about time we got this beast of an Excelia tape deck going again. I've got all my supplies here. I'll just show you. I did get 2 idlers for this unit, just in case one wasn't so good, but as we found out in the previous video, the idler in this is actually quite decent, so we're probably not going to be doing anything with that. And even if we were, I probably wouldn't do it on camera because I've already showed you how to deal with the idler setup on this transport in the Carver video, so I'll try and remember to link that below if you guys need to see it. Otherwise, here are the new belts for the machine. These come from Fix Your Audio, along with these idlers, and as I've said before, that is the only place you can get decent belts for this transport anymore, at least to my knowledge. I'm sure there's other places you can get belts, but these are so insanely picky about their Capstan belts. I would say just skip the middleman and just go right to Fix Your Audio. Anyhow, of these 2 belts, the shorter of the 2 will be for the Capstan belt, and then this bigger one will be for the Capstan drive. So, how about we get into this thing and find out what's going on the inside. Already got the screws out, just to save a little time. And look at those pretty green capacitors back there. Those are actually old Rechecking Muse. So this one's already got audiophile type capacitors in here. Not that I really believe in audiophile capacitors to begin with, but it's got them. And, come on, gimbal, behave. Alright, there we go. And I already see the problem with this unit. Check out that belt right there. Let me grab a dental pick. That does not look good, does it? It is broken and cracked and turned to goo like they all do on these units. So yeah, we got a lot of cleaning ahead of us on this one. That was expected. And you're probably wondering what this solenoid down here is for. Well, this is for the anti-modulation tape stabilization thingamadoodle. I will show you what I mean by that. The Carver has something similar in that there is a mechanism that presses down on the tape from the front to stabilize the tape against the transport, and this is just a little bit better of a version of that. See, what this little solenoid does is it pushes that way, I think. Oh no, it pulls in. It does that. And there's a little plate that goes back and forth. And we'll come around to the front here. Take the door off so you can see. And you can possibly see it, but there is a little plate that goes in and out like that. And that's what that solenoid does. It forces a little lever down there to push against this, which in turn pushes down on the tape to stabilize it. Let me just see if that solenoid activates by fooling the machine into thinking there's a tape in there. You're going to want to watch down there and see if that little tab moves. And it does. So that mechanism works. Anyway, we've got a lot to do on this transport, so I don't want to waste too much of your time. But yeah, I just can't help but wonder, couldn't they have found a little space in here to put this little tumor on the back? I don't get it. Why does this thing have to be hanging out back here and causing problems with our storage racks? Anyway, minor complaint. So what I'm noticing about this unit, as opposed to the Carver, is some of these head wires are soldered in up here, so I think probably what we're going to have to do is free up enough wire to set the transport out in front and work on it that way. That should work, I think. We'll have to cut a bunch of these old zip ties, but that's fine. We can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and unplug the unit here. And we will get started on this. Or at least we will try to. Now, I don't believe this little tape stabilization thing has to be removed or anything in order to get the transport out. I think the transport is independent of that, so that's good because we can't have this anti-modulation thing getting all in our face while we're trying to fix this. And I think I just took out about a quarter dozen screws that didn't need to come out, because there are screws down in here that are red looking. There's one down in there and one down in there. I think those are for the transport. So yeah, typical job for me. Take out a bunch of stuff that doesn't have to come out. Yeah, there's one red screw. And there's the other. You should really not be using magnetized screwdrivers on this kind of thing, but I did it anyway because I've got a demagnetizer for the heads. Alright, the transport is definitely loose now. Oh, I just found something interesting. See that? We got old pieces of belt hanging out down in there. We'll clean those out as well, if we can ever get the transport out. Yeah, just getting it past this little thingamajigger on the bottom that forces the thing to go is not fun. I'm tempted to just take this thing off, but I'd still rather not do that if I can find another way. And there should be another way. You would think there would be another way. Yes, there is another way. You just release this and by pushing down on it, and then the transport can move backwards. This is fun. We are having lots of fun today. There we go, finally. At long last, we can get this transport released. And I've got to free up some more wires I'm seeing. Here's this little wire retainer down in here that I did not notice before. Alright, now what is this and why is it interfering with my transport harness? And there's another connector here. Little 2-pin one. Right down there where the blue and white wires go. I will unplug that one as well. Okay, now we should be able to bring this around somewhere and work on it. There's yet more wires we could unplug and free up, but because the head wires are permanently attached over there, all I need is enough wire so I can do my work here. So we've got this connector down in here, and this one's color coded, so shouldn't get it confused with this other connector where these wires ran to. That one's white and this one's red. So can we work on it on this side? Very possibly. I don't think we can work on it on the other side because these head wires all run up over to this board up here. Right there. So yeah, if I could figure out where these wires went. Well, maybe I still can. Yeah, no, we're not dealing with those wires. We're just going to work on the transport over on this side, I think. And one thing I just noticed that I didn't before is we've got an issue with this line cord. It looks like somebody's little kitty cat chewed on it back in Japan or something, so I'm going to see if maybe I can't take the line cord out and put some heat shrink on that. But it works fine as is too. Okay. So I'm going to shut you off for a quick second. I'll try and swivel this around and then we'll get started. Okay, so it appears that in order to do anything with the transport at all, we're going to have to get this complicated eject mechanism off the thing. And I think the way to do that, there's one screw here, one down here, and then there will be a fourth one somewhere. Yes, right down in there that we have to remove in order to get this out. And that's going to be fun. Seriously fun. How do I even get a screwdriver into that thing? Oh, okay, these are just brackets that you can pull out and then remove the whole door mechanism. We gotta watch this clip down here, I guess. Okay, now what's next? Well, I wanted to take another closer look at these heads once we got to this point, so let's do that now. I'm seeing the ever so slight amounts of corrosion on these heads. I don't think it's anything serious. It doesn't appear to be where the tape rides, but there is a little bit of corrosion. So this must have been near the coast in Japan or something. I'm not concerned about it yet. If there were a lot of corrosion on the heads, then yeah, maybe there'd be a problem, but I think we're doing all right so far. Now, the idler. Am I going to be able to get in there and check the condition of that? Well, first let's check the reel tables. There's a lot of squealing. And yeah, these are going to need lubing. So how's the head block moving? Actually pretty good. I don't think we need to do too much with lubing that up. I believe what I might do while I've got it apart this far is try and power it up and sand down the pinch rollers a little bit, because they are a little hard. I never did that for the Carver because it didn't need it, but yeah, on this mechanism you have to do stuff like that while it's apart this far, otherwise you're just not getting to that stuff. Okay, let me check the idler. There might be a little crack in that idler. No, false alarm, it's fine. So I'm going to do what I originally said and leave that alone. All we're going to do is take the reel tables off, clean them, take the capstans off, obviously, and clean them, and fix the lube issue on there, and get rid of all the old belt goo. But one thing I wanted to mention before we even get started with that, this pinch roller is locked in place. Don't take this off if you don't have to. Otherwise, you're looking at having to realign the entire mechanism. And I don't want to do that, so I'm not touching that. It's the same way on the Carver. With these closed loop dual capstan machines, you don't want to mess with that. Otherwise, you're in for a world of hurt if you don't have the actual tools to deal with that stuff. So, time to get started. First, I'm going to take the oil keepers off the front of the capstans because we have to do that anyway and keep track of them. This one's on there a bit tight. It's right there. I'm going to try and put it someplace where I can remember exactly where it goes. I'll put it by the power strip. And there's another one on the other side, or on the other capstan. It's a little smaller and a little more stubborn. But I got it. It's right there. I'm going to put it down again by the power strip according to which capstan it came off of. And I think I'm probably going to get this plate off and probably release this mechanism here and do a little bit of lubrication under there, under where this ball bearing is, down under here, and this ball bearing right under here. But I'll do that later. I think what I want to do right now, yeah, we'll just do the reel tables right now. Now, if you remember on the Carver video, try and get you adjusted here so you can see this. If you remember on the Carver video, what I did was I just pulled these straight off. That's the wrong way to do it. I only did it that way on the Carver because I got lazy. The right way to do it is to pop these caps off the top and release the split washers that are underneath these things. So let's do that now, if we can. Okay, there we go. There's one. They're just friction fit over the top. I'm going to put those down by the oil keepers I just took off, because why not? And there's the other one. Now, I do believe these are split washers. All right, sewing needles. If this doesn't get in there, nothing will. And there we go, we got one. Right there. And we just got to get the other one. And I sure hope I don't lose these things. And the other important thing you want to do is you want to clean all these reflective silver surfaces, because this is how the deck knows that the reels are turning. If those are dirty, it won't know that the reels are turning. Let me get this little spring out of there too. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to check. It feels kind of loose actually. Uh-oh, we got a problem. It's cracked way down in there. Am I even going to be able to do anything about that? I know some people have put a collar around that and epoxied it down, but I don't know what I have that would do that job. This might not have the best wow and flutter after we get done with it if I don't fix that somehow. It may not, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the spindle is that loose, so we might just leave it be. See, the problem is, if I find a collar or something to go over that, then what does this spring do? Will the spring fit over that? So I'm a little bit reluctant to do anything about that, or even try to do anything about that. Oh, and the whole thing came off. That's why you don't just pull. So I'm going to have to make up some epoxy and glue that back down in there. And honestly, the epoxy might do the job in terms of holding this down. And you can see there's a lot of old grease and stuff that's stuck to that, so we're going to have to deal with that as well. That's why it was making so much noise during fast forward and rewinding. So now we got to get this other one off. Where did I put my sewing needle? But yeah, this is the type of thing you run into on these old machines. All the plastic they used just deteriorates. And then you run into stuff like that. Really, if this thing gets the wow and flutter numbers that the Carver has, I will be perfectly happy with it. It doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, we're talking about the Philips compact cassette. It never was the paragon of audio technology, even when it was invented. Reel-to-reel machines were always superior, and records were always superior. The Philips compact cassette was just a solution to how do we get something audio-wise that's portable and better than 8-track. That's all. We're only here for nostalgia, really. We're not here for the last word in audio quality anymore. Oh, come on off there. Stop pricking my gloves apart. Alright, so we finally got both reel tables off. And I'm looking at this one. No cracks. Good, at least we've got one that's in good shape here. So, yeah, that one's fine. And I just hope that epoxy by itself is going to be able to solve the crack on that thing, because I don't know any other way to deal with that. So yeah, I'm going to get these capstan, or these reel spindles cleaned up, and then we'll epoxy this little brat back in, and we'll go from there. Yeah, lots of fun, these old decks sometimes. I'm going to do the rest of this front part off camera, and then I'll report back. Okay, so I got things lubed up here. I got the lube down in there done, and I got some lube in there, some fresh Lubricating 105, and I've gotten this reel table lubed up. I've just been waiting a little bit more extra time to just let the epoxy set up in there before I do this one. Plus, I wanted to show you how I lube these up on camera as well. Don't have to show you both of them, so I thought I'd just do the one here. So, I think it's all set up now in such a way that we can fix this up. See if I can get you a good angle here without the camera doing that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is take the reel table, and we want to clean up all inside there and get rid of all the old grease. So I've got some isopropyl alcohol set aside here for this. We're just going to go like this. See how black that is? That's old grease. We want to get rid of that. So we just want to clean her up real good like. And we're going to need a couple of different Q-tips to do this. And then when we're done, we're going to run a pipe cleaner up through the center there, just to clean that part of it. That's why this unit was making all that racket when it tried to rewind and fast forward. It's just full of old, awful grease that we need to get rid of and cleaned up. And be warned that you don't want to use too much grease, otherwise it'll come out of there and it'll get on these silver things, and you don't want that. Anyhow, that's just about cleaned up in there. Let me get my pipe cleaner here. We'll just go down right through the center. We can go right out the top if we need to. But I didn't go that far with the other side. See, there's still a little grease there that we had to get rid of. I don't know if you saw that very well, but it is what it is. I'm going to get one more Q-tip. Just one more run inside there. It's just a little bit more grease to deal with. And I'm going to take the other side of the Q-tip and I'm going to clean up these reflective surfaces. Not much dirt on it, but just enough to require cleaning. So where is my Lubriplate 105? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to squeeze out a little bit inside the center like that. That's pretty much all you need, but I'm going to put a very thin layer on the shaft itself. And don't forget to clean up these little springs too that go inside there, because they will have a bunch of old grease on them too. And yeah, you probably noticed I took my gloves off. That's because they were pretty well destroyed at this point. Yeah, I found out the hard way that I had actually accidentally put some of that epoxy on that shaft, so I had to get in there and clean that off real quick before it set up too much. And it just about had set up too much at that point. So yeah, don't get epoxy where you don't want it. That's another tip for you. So I'm going to put this spring back on there and hope that it acts as sort of a collar. It probably won't. I did look around and try to find something that would work to fix that, but I just couldn't find anything. So whether or not this even comes close to its promised wow and flutter performance, I just don't know. It may not. And if it doesn't, we're going to have to be okay with that. Or I'm going to have to be okay with that, because it's my machine. Now, getting this split washer back on there is going to be fun. We'll use the pen trick again, the one that's got no cartridge in it. That did not do the trick that time. Probably going to have to use a screwdriver on this one. Or a couple of screwdrivers. Seems like that's moving a little slow, at least compared to the other one. I'm not actually liking that very much. And yet I can't pull that back off because... Or can I? Yeah, I'm going to have to remove this one again. Great. So yeah, I think we've done all we can do up top here. I'll just put the cap back on. And we'll get underneath and start into this nightmare underneath. And I'm going to have to put a new set of gloves on because this is going to get bad. I guarantee it. So, screwdriver. This one is the one I need. Fortunately, this is going to be a lot easier than dealing with the real tables up top, I'll tell you what. Okay, so as you can see, the big belt goes around this flywheel up to the motor, and then the little flywheel goes between the two flywheels. Or rather, the little belt. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. You'll have to excuse me. Okay, there's a lot of belt goo up in there, and we got to clean this pulley up real good and a bunch of stuff. Don't worry about timing these or anything. They don't need to be timed. So let me just pull this one up and out and lose a bunch of stuff in the process. Great. So when we put this back on, the spring goes down on the shaft first, and then the oil keeper, the little black washer that came off. But that's when we put it back together. We don't have to do that yet. We're going to clean those up real good first. Yeah, I can just tell all those bearings need lubing real good. So yeah, you can sort of see how it goes on this one. So I'm just trying to keep track of which flywheel goes where. I'm just going to pull this stuff off. Now, do I want to clean the bearings on the inside? These are sintered bearings, so they likely do not need it, but this is a fancy machine, so let me grab the acetone. I'll just put some in a cap there. Hopefully you can see this. I'm going to grab one of the pipe cleaners, throw it in the acetone, and just go right down in there. And I'll do the same for the other one. And we're going to have to let that dry real good, because acetone is not good for plastic at all. We're going to go in with brand new Andorol 456 and make those bearings nice and happy. I just got some acetone on my gloves. Great. That's just what I wanted. Okay, now, wait, before we do that, let's clean up that pulley with the isopropyl alcohol. Off comes a bunch of old belt glue, or belt goo. Not glue, it's obviously not glue. One ruined Q-tip, Fortunately, there's not a lot of this stuff on the pulley to deal with, it looks like. Just a little bit. Two ruined Q-tips. Okay, that part's done. Or rather, that part is almost done, because we're going to clean off the flywheel bearings as well. Okay, now we're going to do this flywheel first, I think. Where is my shop towel? Because this is going to have way too much old belt goo for a Q-tip. And I'm going to use way too much isopropyl alcohol. Look at that. This is exactly what I had to deal with the Carver, only you guys weren't around for that because that was before I decided to do this stuff on YouTube. This is why you buy shop towels, for this kind of thing. It's just all melted into garbage at this point. Could try to chase it around with a dental pick, I guess, but it's just all goo, so you have to just keep cleaning and cleaning until you get it all done. And expect to go through a lot of alcohol, because look at this. So that one's about ready to go back on. Where is my Androl? Where did I put that? It's on the table somewhere, right in front of my face, as it would turn out. That ought to do it. Now, once again, we've got two sizes of oil keeper, just like the front. So hopefully I got them set aside properly there. Oh yes, it's probably good if we just go ahead and clean the capstan shaft as well, because I haven't done that yet. And we're going to double clean it later, because this is going to push some oil through the bearing there once it goes back on. Drop the spring in place. Very nice. Yes, I like that. Now we got to do this guy, which is even worse because it had two belts to deal with. Okay, I think we finally got that thing cleaned up. At least I hope we did. Just take a look for yourself and see. That's about as clean as as blah 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 as clean as it'll ever be, I think. Whatever they made those old belts out of just turns to complete goo, and it's just really hard to get it all off. But I think we've got it all off now. At least I hope we do. I'll put my isopropyl alcohol away for now. We'll need it again, but no sense letting it all evaporate on me. Okay, now it's just about time to put the new belts on, and I'm taking the gloves back off for that because I don't want to contaminate brand new belts. Now, before I actually reach for the new belts, I'm going to set this down here and make sure I'm familiar with exactly which ones go where. Okay, so yeah, the inner capstan belt goes around there. And yeah, I think we're good to go with this. Let me clean the capstan off again real quick, just to make sure it's not holding any acetone. It shouldn't be by now. And let's see, where did I put the new belts? There they are. Brand new belts, Mr. Tape Deck. Okay, so we'll set that like that. Now we have to lubricate this guy. Get the old androl out. That ought to do it. Oil keeper. The spring. Which just fell out somewhere. Terrific. Just try and put my fingers over it to... Oh, come on. Oil keeper does not get to go AWOL on me. And of course the new belt fell off, because why wouldn't it? Okay, why is that not even going down all the way? This is in the right position, isn't it? It is, but it's got some trouble going down. Don't know exactly what's going on with it. Okay, so I think that's the way it's supposed to go. Let me just double check here. Alright, so I think we're going to have to run it like this with the whole transport upside down in order to do this, because otherwise I got cardboard interfering with the flywheels, and we don't want that. So let's see what we got here. Alright, the mechanism just reset. So this is the... Yeah, it looks like it's moving well. Let's hit play and see what happens. Alright, we're good there. Let me just get in here real quick and I'll just... do that. That could use a little more, honestly. I'm going to fold up this little piece of stuff a little better here. Okay, let me see if I can do this a little better. Well, that one's nice and grippy. Now, how in the heck am I supposed to get to this other one? This other one's a real nightmare. All right, let me feel if I can. They're looking good now and they're feeling good. I don't know if I was able to get an even pressure on this little one because it's just really hard to get at. But yeah, it looks like the transport's doing fine. Did something just break off there? There's a switch broken or something. Am I gonna have to epoxy something else? Yeah, that's broken. How did that happen? Good grief. Could have sworn it was there too. And we need to find that, because if we don't have that switch going, yeah, something happens. It's something I did too, because yeah, we need to fix that somehow, some way. Must have put too much pressure on it or something while I was dealing with these pinch rollers. Let me shut you off and I'll find that piece. Okay, so here's the deal. I think that switch has actually been broken for a long time. I think there's enough of it left to perform its function, but actually what its function is it works together with this switch to tell the deck that there's a tape present. So what happens is they're wired in series. They both have to conduct, otherwise the deck doesn't think there's a tape in. However, this other switch is currently working fine, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bypass this broken one. And we'll leave it at that. I don't think this is anything I did, actually. I think it's been like that for a while. Could be wrong, but yeah, I'm going to use my new wire stripping tool to make a little jumper wire. Man, I love that thing. I don't know how I lived without it all these years. Anyway, we'll just tin up this wire real good so it's got something to stick to. And yeah, I'm real pleased with the way the transport is currently working. It's actually doing better than the Carver did. First time I did this on the Carver. So yeah, we'll just make a little jumper wire here and we'll get her all fixed up in no time. And I'm just not going to worry about that switch not working properly, because it's a redundant switch. It doesn't actually need to be there. Alright, let me pull this towards me so I can work easier. And yeah, I couldn't find the rest of that switch anywhere inside the unit, so that's the only conclusion I can come to, is that it's been like this for a while. And the other piece of that switch must be somewhere in Japan or something, or stuck somewhere in the nethers of this deck where I can't find it, and I would just rather not deal with it. We'll just go ahead and bypass it. That's if we can get our soldering iron close enough. Alright, that's one side. We'll just wrap it around like so. And that should do the trick. If it don't, we'll know in a hurry, because I'm about to fire it up and test on her right now. See if I can do this in such a way that it won't interfere with anything. All right, I turned off the transformer. All right, let's see what happens. Yeah, it seems to be working. All right, folks, I got it back together and we're just getting ready to test, but I've noticed that there is an issue here. You see that? It's got a ticking noise. So we might have more issues to deal with on the electronic side of this. Now, these are known for having bad solder joints, so I'm guessing it's something along those lines, but I don't know for sure. Right now, we just want to see if it'll play a tape. Today is all about transport service, not about electronics. We'll get into that soon enough. Okay, will it play a tape? Apparently not. The transport is working, but we've got no sound. Why come do we not have sound? Very interesting. And not in an especially good way. It's like the signal isn't getting from the transport to the rest of the electronics here. Oh, there we go. Now we got a signal going through it. It's registering a signal through there, but I'm not getting anything through the amp. That ticking could be just because I've got the lid off or something. Not exactly sure, but what I am sure about is we're not getting any sound through the output stages. Did I hook up to the wrong terminals or something? Yes, I did. It would help if I hooked up to the right terminals, wouldn't it? It would indeed. Oh, we don't want that wire getting into the flywheel. I don't know what that squeal was, but it was weird. Anyway, it does appear to be working now. Now that I got it plugged into the right jacks, that is. Sounds alright. Let me go for the vaporwave tape, if I can find it. Alright, Cosmic Cycler, here we go. sounds very wowy and fluttery, but that could be because I was just playing vaporwave. Let me get the laptop out. We're going to check the wow and flutter right now. All right, moment of truth. Is the epoxy going to keep this deck under control? I kind of have my doubts, but we're going to just give it a shot anyway. Here goes nothing. I'm prepared to tweak on the speed if I have to also. Well, yeah, it's not matching the Carver, but it is actually not bad, all things considered. For one thing, we've got a big speed issue. We got to fix that right now. We're not going to know what it's capable of until we do. So let me just try and get in here and we'll tweak on this. All right, I think right about there ought to do it. And we're still getting, oh, what is it, 0.08 RMS wow and flutter. That's actually pretty good. It's not where the Carver is, but it's really close actually. And it's drifting a little bit, the speed. Probably have to get back in there and do a motor service to get any better than that. Okay, so before we get to do our little record test, I was playing this unit last night and I noticed there is still a problem. It plays fine at the beginning of a tape, but at the end of the tape it's wow and flutter galore, so we've still got an issue in here. Now there's a number of possibilities I can think of that might be causing this, all of them lubrication related. And yeah, that's the way it goes with this transport. If you don't have everything lubricated exactly the way the deck wants you to, it's not going to be right. And I found that with the Carver as well, so be patient with this transport if you've got one. So yeah, the four possibilities I can think of are: 1, the pinch roller pivots have dried old grease in them and they can't engage properly. I found that when I pushed up on the take-up side pinch roller, the issue sort of went away, sort of not. That's one possibility. 2, we might still have an idler issue. I'm kind of thinking that's not the issue because it's running well enough and I know the Carver like the back of my hand now, and it had idler issues for the longest time and it never had a problem playing the tape. So number 3 is, oh, let me think. Number 3 is the back tension brake might be causing a problem. There's this little brake underneath the supply side reel that keeps tension on the tape so it performs properly. And there's a little felt pad on it. If that felt pad is moved and is contacting the serrated portion of the supply side reel, it could be slowing things down more than it should be. But the last possibility, and the one I think is most likely, is we've still got an issue with either the Capstan motor or the lubrication down inside the capstans. You'll remember that I had a little trouble getting the take-up side capstan to go in place again, so there might be a little more lubrication issues there. But we have not tried a motor service yet, and yeah, you'll remember that when we first got this machine running again, this thing was running at maybe 50, 60 hertz too slow. So we're going to do a motor rebuild on camera. So let's do that now. Well, not a full rebuild. We'll lube it up some. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to try and get the back off this thing with the mechanism in place, because I do not want to get involved with taking the whole shebang out again, because that was kind of a pain. So let me get this apart and we'll get the motor out and we'll work on it. Alright, so the motor is out and we're ready to go on this. Dated 23rd of December 1988, so yeah, it's very likely that there could be some belt goo or something stuck in there. It's not moving too bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's not a problem. So we're gonna have to pop this pulley off, if I can do that. Sometimes it's difficult. Just want to watch that we don't crack the pulley or anything. I'm looking at it now. I don't see any cracks in it, so I think we're good there. But I'm noticing it's a little discolored in there, so probably good that we're doing this. Now, in order to get these apart, you don't want to just get in here and pry on the circuit board or you'll damage it. What we want to do is open up some space here so we can pry between the housing and the back plate. But usually the way I do this is I get my smallest pair of pliers here and I pry like this. That'll usually get it to come off, like so. Now, in order to get this apart, you don't want to just pull it out like that. You want to push on the actual shaft here. And there will be a motor inside of a motor here. Like so. There we go. We've got a little rubber isolator up here. We can leave that in place. Now we've got to get inside this inner motor, which is going to be fun. This is exactly the way the Sansui motor was. And the Sansui motor needed this job to be done also, so it's not like we're without precedent here. So I'm just looking to see what I have to do. I've got a couple of places to desolder here, and I'm going to have to mark this because when I did this on the Sansui, I got the motor back together backwards and it didn't work so good. So let me find something to mark with. Like, oh, say a Sharpie. And let's see here, what am I going to do? I'm going to mark where the wires are. How about that? There, now we're going to have to desolder something, which requires me to go over and get my soldering gear that I forgot to get. Ain't that always the way it goes? Now before I desolder this, I'm going to do another little mark here just to make sure I don't screw up this time. I'm going to mark where my arrows are on this plastic plate here because we got to line that up again too. So we should be about ready to go with this. I wish I had better lighting for this kind of thing, but I don't. All right, and you'll note that I've got new tips on my solder bolt finally. I should have done that ages ago, but I didn't. And now to get this part apart, we've got a couple of little tabs in there to deal with. And these can be fun, so be very patient with them. What they are is they're tabs that come sticking up and then they fold them over. So they can be really hard to get into. And there we go, we're in. Now this goes the same way. Push down on the case like that with the shaft against the hard surface. because you don't want to damage the brushes in here. Now we got to get in there and go like that. And fortunately I did not damage anything in there, because that was kind of wonky the way that I got in there. Okay, so cleaning supplies. Clean the shaft. And I'm going to give the brushes a little squirt with the contact cleaner. Do a little twirly doodle. And this does feel a little not so good for lubrication, so we are going to have to put some oil in there. And the way we're going to do that yeah, the oil in there is no good. So we're going to set it down like this. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can actually see what I'm doing here. Okay, we're going to have to dribble some oil way down there. I'm going to use my screwdriver to help with this. I'm going to grab the anderol. What I'm going to do is go like this. And that should do it. We're using the shaft of the screwdriver as a guide for the oil to go down into where we want it, which is way down in there. It has to go way in there underneath the brushes. And I think we got it. Okay, so back you guys out again. Give the shaft another little clean. And now we got to clean this guy. I'm going to use one of those pipe cleaners and isopropyl alcohol. That's all we need. We're not using anything strong like acetone on this. Okay, that should be good now. Next step is new oil down in there. Usually I relube them after it's back together from the top, but might as well do it now too. It works just as well. All right, that feels pretty good. Hopefully she's happy now. So we're gonna have to fix up the damage we did to get inside this thing. That ought to hold, I think. Now we gotta solder it back down to the board. Wait, before I do this, do I want to clean this control? I think I do. I did have a little trouble getting this aligned. So that should solve that problem. All right, that ought to hold. Should be good to go. Now I'm just going to check this flywheel real quick. See how it's moving. Or attempt to see how it's moving. There shouldn't be that much drag on this. It feels fine. Keeping in mind that we've got the inner capstan belt on. So I think we're going to stick to just the motor job for now. And we're going to see what that changes, if anything. I'm going to put this back together. And we are going to do another wow and flutter test to see if anything at all changed. Alright, so I think we're ready to go here. Are we taking bets as to whether or not I actually fixed anything? Honestly, I've got my doubts at the moment, but machine's on, the wow and flutter tape is in. We're just going to see how this ends up. No change. Well, maybe a little bit of change. It's running a little slow now. Let me tweak on that. Well, I think we'll take that. I am not happy with the continued high wow and flutter though. But there could be, like I said, a multitude of things causing that. Let me fast forward in the tape a little bit here. Yeah, it looks inconsistent yet. Could be it just needs a little more runtime to let the new lube get in where it's supposed to go, but this is not what I would want to see from this unit. Alright, another update. I just went another 50 rounds with this thing because I just didn't feel like leaving well enough alone, or poorly enough alone as the case may be. Here's the old idler. It's really not that bad, but I went ahead and replaced it anyway. It did have a few cracks in it. So we've got a brand new idler in there. I also took the time to inspect the supply brake for the back tension. It's fine, no problems there. I took the take-up pinch roller off. That's the only one you can remove on this mechanism without doing an alignment. And I lubed that up too, so hopefully we get something better this time, because it really fought me going back together this time. Anyhow, let me get my tape here. Okay, that's already running. Please work. I forgot something. I forgot to plug in this little solenoid. Okay, there we go. Now maybe we can get something going here. And it's actually a little worse. Terrific. Just beautiful. I also added a little bit more lube in the capstan, so maybe it's got too much lube now, but as of right now, I think I'm done with this unit. All right, there it is. That's the best we can do with this. It might settle down again in time, but at this point I really think it's that supply reel shaft. It's just not working well because of those cracks in the plastic. I'm just looking to see if it's maintaining a more stable speed before I try and get in there and tweak anymore. It looks like it actually is. It's rewinding well. So the new idler's doing its job. Well, folks, I finally found the problem, at least with the slow speeds and stuff. And you just saw the thing shut off. That's another problem I gotta track down yet, but always double check your work. Even if something is perfect and you think it's perfect, it may not be perfect. In this case, it was the take-up capstan. It wasn't quite clean enough. So I've gone ahead and cleaned it up again. Why are you stopping? Gotta look for that problem. Anyway, the numbers still aren't looking great over there, but good enough for now. I just want it to be able to play without stopping, like it's apparently doing now. But yeah, double check everything and then just go ahead and put me on the short bus. Okay, so it's day 3. I finally decided to take a day off just to give myself a little break from this maddening machine, but I'm now inside the transport once again and just taking a little look at this sensor down in here. This is for the take-up reel. And this handles the auto stop for the machine. I had a suspicion that this might be causing the issue with the shutdowns, and I have just gotten through cleaning it. There was a little bit of crud on it, so I'm hoping that fixes the problem. The reel table itself was nice and clean, so that wouldn't have been causing it. So I'm just hoping that little bit of dirt or whatever that stuff was on there was causing the issue. If not, it's going to be electronics now, because I've already been inside this one again. That one's clean, and the back of the reel table on this side is clean, and it's moving really freely now. At least it would be if the brakes were off. But yeah, this machine may never be up to the Carver standards, and I guess that's okay. I'm still trying to convince myself to bring over the Capstan motor from the Carver to try that back there and see if that improves anything, but I don't know. I think that's going to be a part 3 eventually. I'm ready to be done with this, honestly. And that's the one thing you have to be aware of with these big Aiwa units. They will fight you, and they will fight you, and they will fight you. And you may never get them back to factory perfect. So if you're getting into cassette decks for the first time, this would not be my first choice. And yeah, I kind of regret paying what I paid to get this, but it's fine. It's for the channel. It all counts. And I've got one deck on the shelf now that promises to be the second fiddle for the Carver, better than this machine, and that's this guy up here. That's a TAC V770. It's not a closed loop dual capstan, but it is a 3-head, and it is a TAC, which is the brand I wanted as a kid. So yeah, let me get this put back together yet again, and we'll see if the auto stop issue has been fixed. So, is the shutdown issue fixed? Well, let's find out. I've got Melissa Etheridge here. We're just going to rewind side 1 and see if she shuts off again. I've already rewound side 2 with no issues, so let's see if side 1 is okay. This is promising. It's running a little slow and a little noisy. And the problem again could be this shaft over here. I did end up roughing it up a little bit with sandpaper just to make sure all the epoxy was off of it, so that could also be causing the high wow and flutter. But yeah, as long as this thing works, I'm happy. It doesn't have to be up to the Carver's level. It just has to be working. And it appears this is now working. So, maybe now we can do our record test. Let me get this back together. Okay, so I'm just getting ready to do the recording test on both the Carver and the Excelia. And just getting things set up here. And I thought what I would do is I would show you how to set the bias controls on one of these things. This applies to both the Carver and the Excelia, and I'm going to have to do this for both machines. So, I've got the tape set up for this machine, the Carver. I'm using two different Metal SR tapes from Sony for this. And yeah, just doing the Carver right now because it's here and convenient. I'll move the Excelia over later. And hopefully that thing keeps working for me, but who knows. Anyway, what we are going to have to do first to make sure we set the bias correctly is to make sure Dolby is off, which it is. We need the tape source to be on source. Rather, we don't need the tape monitor right now, we just need the source monitor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some pink noise through this thing. And we're going to use the pink noise to set up our treble response so that the source and the tape match each other as best as possible. So the first thing we do here is we need to set the recording level to minus 20 decibels. So we'll do that. And we'll start recording. Now we just go back and forth and compare. You can see me turning the bias knob here. Just trying to get that extra little treble out of it. I think right about there. I think that's about as good as it gets. And now what we want to do is we want to increase our record level. I'm going to turn my volume down first. And we want to go up to 0 decibels. And now we want to go back. Actually, that's too hot. We'll go down to 0 on this. Levels are a bit uneven. Okay, we've got just about 0 right there. Now we go over to tape, and we just want to turn up our record level until we get to 0 decibels on here. A little bit of a channel imbalance here. So I'm going to go up a little bit on the left channel. Okay, there we go, right there. That's calibrated. Now I'm just going to rewind this and I'm going to start recording. And I think I found a decent track for this. I'm not exactly sure how well it'll work. The problem is I need to find something that I've got recorded in FLAC, free lossless audio codec, and it has to be mastered well. and it has to be copyright friendly, so not the easiest thing to do, but I think I've got the solution here. Let me get started. So, what are my thoughts about the Aiwa Excelia XK-007 now that we've heard it play? Well, before I say words and sentences about that, I just wanted to point something out. I didn't realize this, but up in the display here, you can see where it actually wants you to set the recording levels for metal tape, and it's well into the red. So, we could have gotten even more dynamic range out of this than we did, which is insane to me. But yeah, thoughts about this unit. Well, the transport in these have always been really hard to service. It's just that the way it is with these Aiwa units. It's kind of a proprietary, well, it's not kind of, it is a proprietary transport. It doesn't borrow from any other manufacturer that I know of. And this transport is very picky. If you don't get it exactly right, something's going to be off. That's just the way it is. You have to go into servicing this with one heck of a lot of patience. Otherwise, it'll screw with you and you will get irritated and you will throw tools and you will cuss words and possibly even recycle the machine. Well, this thing's here to tell you that if you have the patience and you're willing to go all the way with it, it will reward you. And boy howdy, did it ever reward me. I mean, the Carver is exceptionally good of a recorder. It's been my best recorder since the time I got it, and I've got other really awesome decks up there that you guys haven't seen yet that also do an amazing job. But the Carver has always been on top until now. This thing is the new king of the hill. I don't know if you guys heard what I heard, but I just heard many more highs, many more lows, and it's just that much better of a tape deck. I cannot believe I'm even saying that about something that came out of the box with corrosion on the heads and multiple issues with the transport and corrosion on the back panel jacks. But yeah, here we are. And I'm real excited to see what the XK-009 can do now. I'm not sure when I'm going to get one of those, but I'm probably going to jump on that as soon as I can now because I need to see how that one does. The 009 is considered by many people to be among the best cassette decks in the world. And I mean, that's including Nakamichi. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what that one does, but for now, this is going to conclude this video. Do I have plans to address the speed issues, or the speed drifting issues, and the wow and flutter? Because this is currently not running up to the Carver's level. It's getting close, and it could get there with belt break-in yet. We really haven't had much playtime on these belts. But I feel that the Capstan motor is a little weak in this, so I've got 3 of them on order, and if those 3 solve the playback issues, I'm going to go in for Pacific Stereo's UCM, which is Universal Capstan Motor. It's a very high quality motor that should outperform the motor that's in this drastically. Unfortunately, it is very expensive. It's probably going to cost me $200 just to get one of those. So yeah, I have to be absolutely sure I want one before I put one in this deck. So we're going to try like-for-like replacement. I've got the exact motors coming for this that are in the Carver, which should be compatible. This isn't the same motor that's in the Carver, but it's close enough. It'll work. So yeah, we're going to see what happens with that in a future video. But for now, we're done with this machine. I have full intentions of enjoying it. I'm probably going to remaster my YouTube recording demo cassette with this machine now. But yeah, I'm very pleased with how this turned out. And no, I didn't quite get the issues with the line cord dealt with, but it is what it is. I just spent 3 days fighting this machine, so I'm ready for a break now. Anyhow, that's it for today. Take care, guys.